Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media, just taking a look at the 2024 second Omnibus volume release of The Question by Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cowan. And what we usually do at this channel is give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across these books in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Now yes, for those of you returning to the channel, you may already know The Question is among my favorite superheroes or heroes in general. He's literally number 3 in my top 3, and it's for good reason. It has a lot to do with Denny O'Neil in general. But yes, Dennis Cowan, he is just as synonymous with this character for me, mainly to do with this run. And I guess I was always curious whenever the first volume released how they were going to map it, because there wasn't too much Denny O'Neil material left, so they were very clever in how they went about this one. And I must say, you will get some other creatives here, especially the Mike Grell story, which I'm so surprised they included here. But yes, in a nutshell, it's for those of you maybe who are wondering, the main series. So the first Omnibus volume basically covers from the beginning up until the 5th. And this volume here basically collects these two and the further stories, like The Question Quarterly, and then of course the Question, Butcher, and Green Arrow series, and then a little bit of a showcase a little bit later. But it's very clever how they went about mapping the book, but I guess I should digress here. In this case, yes, at least on the exterior, very much familiar with the first volume. I love the aesthetic. It definitely lines up very well. Just like how they went with this off-color, red from the first one, they kind of went with this off-color blue. Very unique. Once again, it'll pop right off your bookshelf, that's for sure. And it uses the cover from Peacemaker, one of the final volumes there. A very traditional spine, as mentioned, very in line with the first release. And of course, one of the covers from one of the final issues of the main run. One of my favorites, actually. So, go figure, that's Dennis Cowan for you. But yeah, very vintage kind of feel, even down to the lettering, which is impressive. And underneath the dust jacket, they did go with the Question Quarterly cover. This is the first cover for it. You can kind of see it has this almost Leonardo da Vinci aesthetic to it. But it's, of course, Dennis Cowan in this case, but awesome. And yes, they did kind of follow suit again. Both of these releases, Volume 1 and 2, are very consistent. Very awesome. And then they also used another one of Cowan's from the Question Quarterly. So I guess it's very Question Quarterly, minded. But yeah, one of the best covers for him, that's for sure. That fist just looks like a grizzled teeth. At least that's the way it comes off for me. But yes, in terms of bonus material, very much like the first volume, it's predominantly a lot of Denny O'Neil's just editorials and answering questions from, fans and whatnot. So yeah, it just kind of starts off with your typical fare of the history of the character. But I like how this is very candid. Like, it talks way more than just DC Comics. It talks about Charlton, Marvel, the whole shebang. And yes, the very candid editorial or letters from fans. I like how it's, the character is the question and Denny O'Neil's answers are literally the answer. I love it. It's so perfect. I mean, sure, Denny O'Neil may not have been the originator of the character, Steve Ditko, of course, but I always mention how, I guess Denny O'Neil working at Charlton at the time, he probably was firsthand available to see what this character was supposed to be. Because Steve Ditko, he made like 2 characters at once. He made the Question to be more mainstream and very gritty and relatable, whereas like his other character, Mr. A, was more of the philosophical aspect. So I feel like Denny O'Neil remembered that aspect that Steve Ditko did and really just went to town with it. And Dennis Cowan was there for the ride, that's for sure. But now for art and plot points. As mentioned, this predominantly does just finish up the main run. And I guess if you were reading the original run, you're probably getting an idea that it was a very mature kind of story. Like, it was basically DC Vertigo before DC Vertigo. And it's really just about how this broken city, it's finally on the way back up. Finally. Because yeah, it's just been rife with crime and all that jazz. It's so you're finally starting to see like the pieces finally coming together and legitimate moves being made to try and correct everything. But you can still see, yeah, there's still missteps here and there. And I love how the Question is not a perfect hero. He also makes mistakes or just doesn't always have the answer to everything. And the whole, like, you know, Reverend Hatch thing coming full circle, awesome. But yeah, it's just interesting that the story is never really gonna give you like that much sunshine. Like, it's very unapologetic in how it goes about everything. But probably one of my favorite characters from this series was Shiva. After all, she is a heavy catalyst toward this run. So after all, the reason why he survived and the whole reason why the Question became one of the best fighters in DC. And yeah, just their rematch. And it's so perfectly Shiva. I tell you, Denny O'Neil seemed to understand how to write this character. And man, Dennis Cowan, look at these amazing kinetics. Like, this man just knew... This man just knew what to do every damn time. He could see a scene so damn well. So I majorly big him up for that. But being, I guess, a product of the late 80s and early 90s, it still had that excellent dramatic effect, that almost that cinematography aspect that a writer and artist can create, where you get these awesome, you know, graphic designs where, yeah, you can just see it has the 1980s, you know, panel design. So a lot of information, a lot of, you know, screen real estate, but still had time to be aesthetically visual and whatnot. And yeah, just these excellent choices with the silhouette and all that. Just beyond the word perfect, I tell you. And for those of you who may not remember, you know, if you ever wondered how Batman's technology got incredibly advanced in the 90s or late 80s, 90s, it had to do with a character named Harold, who was first introduced in the Question. So yeah, that little hunchback dude that if you read Batman Hush, you probably know him more from that. But what an awesome narrative. Very intriguing how they create this character. He's always there, but he's not like the focus, and almost nobody even notices that he's saving the day. So he gets no flowers, but hey man, that's the thing about heroes. You don't always need to get your flowers every time. You just got to do the right thing. Yeah, and just walk off, I guess in this case, on his way to Gotham. But such an interesting little quick narrative there. But yeah, as mentioned, he'll always have his paramour, Mira Furman. As mentioned, she's like the mayor of the city now, I guess, poetically. But just all these new dramas come up from it. You know, like somebody else taking over the man with no face persona. What an interesting concept. A man you already don't know. Now there's another person impersonating him. So I just love how certain scenes like just bring out the best in Denny O'Neil. Because man, I tell you, you would probably never get a chance to write a scenario like this, a scene like this. And that's another thing I should mention. Like Denny O'Neil, he's been on record to say this. I mean, God rest him, of course, but he's been on record to say, like, he never had more freedom as a writer than he did when he was doing the Question, doing this particular run. And that's saying something, considering how much, you know, body of work Denny O'Neil had over the years. Mighty incredible, actually. But yeah, just an intriguing aspect nonetheless. I love the subtleties in the writing as well. Because if you read this particular page a certain way, you almost get an impression that, you know, Shiva, who's so morally ambiguous, does have somewhat of a soft spot side to her. I love that aspect. I love this particular panel here. Very telling, very haunting in a way. Just very unique in general. Man, what an incredible run. Oh, speaking of which, yes, as mentioned, you do get a little bit of a Green Arrow in this. So they did collect 2 of the annuals that do admittedly fit in this spot. But you'll notice the artwork does change drastically, because sometimes you'll get like Joe Quesada and other artists like Mike Barron and whatnot. But at least for this, the Question Quarterly, as mentioned, this was a special run where it was a continuation, but it was these longer, like 50-page issues. As you can see, every issue kind of started off with that, a complete story. And yes, it's an excellent idea where it picks up several years, or I guess sometime after the main run, and it fits so well. And yet you get to see so many different dimensions and philosophies behind this character. I've always kind of mentioned that, how the Question, Vic Sage, is very much like Daredevil, Matt Murdock. Except, switch, of course, Hub City with New York, and also switch, like, Matt Murdock's, personal struggle with, his moral aspects with Catholicism. Vic Sage doesn't really believe in religion, but he believes in humanity. Like, he's a humanist, and he's more of an existentialist as well. So it's very interesting to see that kind of juxtaposition between the two characters. I've always made that kind of connection between these two. Heavy martial artists, both of them, and very, I guess, conscious about what they're doing. They always think about every aspect, the moral aspect of just going in and, dropping somebody from a building kind of thing. But yeah, the series does take this extreme mature tone. Like I said, this was like DC Vertigo before DC Vertigo was a thing. So yeah, just reminding you that, hey, even Mira, you may think that she's the damsel in distress, but no, she definitely knows how to defend herself, even to the point of kicking out a dude's teeth. I love the fact that Dennis Cowan even nailed that aspect of it. So perfect. And this whole series is just, there's so many different angles and different concepts being employed, but these beautifully well thought out panels and staging. Like, I always felt like this was Dennis Cowan's take on, like, Batman Year One. This particular scene. I know, yeah, many fight scenes on a fire escape, but still, I love these character designs, and of course the typical kinetics really sell the scene. You're there. You're absolutely there. These overlays, everything about it, man, I tell you. But probably one of the best parts of the Question Quarterly, as mentioned, it's every issue is like its own thing, and the final issue of it, as it even mentions, it is directly inspired by Rashomon, where it's just this one event and multiple characters are telling you their perspectives of it, so it ultimately reveals what truly happened. I just like how you see this page where the Question punches Mira and you're like, what the hell? But then it's fully explained at the end what he was really doing. But man, what an awesome concept here on this awesome fight scene with him and Dino. I forget the last name. I think it's like Andolini or something. Dino. Yeah, I was close enough, I guess. But really awesome. I like very on point stuff. Man, just I love how they have the little banter and then they go right back into fighting. And yeah, admittedly, everybody kind of admits Vic Sage is like one of the top dogs in DC for fighting. Yeah, this punches her to punch him. It's one of the funniest moments ever. Anyways, but yeah, by the end of the tale, you're gonna love it, I tell you. But again, another incredible choice was the Mike Grell story here. So there's Mike Grell and Mike Baron with with The Brave and the Bold. So yeah, DC was just kind of combining multiple characters together: Green Arrow, the Butcher, and the Question. Honest to God, I've never read anything about John Butcher beyond this particular story. But still, very intriguing. I've always remembered it because it takes place in Canada. So, a pretty intriguing aspect. But I like how there is a legitimate reason why each character is there. I like how everything feels kind of natural, how they come to a understanding with each other. But I like how even Mike Baron's style, even though he isn't like Dennis Cowan, he's very, very great in his own right. It almost has this raw, what's the word? I would say like this veracity to it as well, this grunginess to it. So definitely appreciate that. And as you can see, being a creature of like the early 90s, yeah, Vic Sage is still rocking his mullet. But very, very appreciative that they included this. Because yeah, you get so many different aspects of life that you wouldn't kind of see these days. Sure, modern comics will kind of touch on these things, but they won't do it in this very, raw aspect. Like they usually have like a bit of the leash pulled back, but not in these books, I tell you. Very, very on point. Probably one of my favorites though is this one here. It's a nice quick little showcase issue, so it's not too long, but it has Rick Burchett and Denny O'Neil on it. But yeah, it's just a quick one, but it's very well, very well thought out, just to be this little quick story. But yeah, it just gives you a little bit of the origin of Vic Sage, growing up in that orphanage, something that Jeff Lemire would one day end up using. But yeah, you're seeing, once again, heavy narratives, and yes, you're going to see these awesome connects for the question yet again. I just love this kick. I don't know why, but I've always liked the look of it. It's just a constant reminder that you just can't mess with this guy. And yes, it does finalize itself here with, of course, yeah, just the Sword of Azrael kind of concept. But yeah, just a strong series all around. I love the fact that they brought back Sonny Boy. He's one of the craziest characters, or most sadistic characters you're ever going to get out of this narrative. But actually, I shouldn't say it ended there. One of my favorites is this one. Forgive me, I forget the artist's name. I think it's Barreto. But yes, the question returns. Oh yeah, Eduardo Barreto, excuse me. Man, so yeah, even when I forget, I remember. Yeah, I love the question so much. But yeah, this one, it pretty much wraps up the entirety of the Denny O'Neil run, because it does finish one little missing question or one lingering aspect of that series. But I tell you, this is a hands down. Again, I mentioned how the first one was like an 11 out of 10. This is right next to it there, poetically. It is beyond the word perfection. I'm so glad that DC did this justice. And man, I'm glad that it's like the first major pickup for me for 2024 at least. But hey, it's no longer about me at this point. Hopefully you guys have your own opinions. You probably heard it in my voice. I'm a little biased. He is one of my favorite superheroes, but still, I can't deny this is so well packaged. But anywho, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video nonetheless. Y'all folks take care.